name's Ryan and welcome to Teach Me in 20. Each week I'll release a new podcast where I get to speak with awesome people who have something new to teach me that I know nothing about. If, like me, you're naturally curious about everything, this could be the podcast for you. So come along for the ride. It'll only cost you 20 minutes. Hello everybody and welcome to Teach Me in 20 with Karis. Today we are very lucky to be joined by Ben Kotovski-Steele. He is a renowned juggler in WA and his show at the Fringe Festival won Circus Award for WA. Welcome along, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
It's not every day I get to meet a juggler, so I was like, oh my gosh, come on, please.
I guess there's not that many of us in Perth. Actually, there's quite a few if you look, but not a lot that perform actually.
So I probably should tell everyone, we met a few weeks ago, we were at an event, and just everyone was captivated. I, for one, loved it. I got to, for the first time, actually be taught how to juggle and own. Like, I must say, I got home and was just showing everybody. I was so wrapped.
You owned it. Yeah.
Thanks. Do you get that response, though? Because everyone was just drawn to you and wanted to take part in it.
Sometimes. I mean, usually I'm teaching at a circus school in a professional capacity. I personally love it when I can teach someone and they pick it up and they become obsessed with it.
Yep.
That's like, for example, you and your colleagues, you just got it so quickly and I could see that the passion was there, and like the fact that you're telling me you went home and juggled makes me so happy because it's like that's how I got into juggling and that's what I want to pass on to other people. Right,
because I was going to ask, how did it all get started?
So I started casual circus classes in 2010, I think,
okay.
And then
where does casual circus classes? Where are they? I've actually never seen or heard about them.
It does sound pretty random, but it does exist.
Okay.
So down in Fremantle, there's a circus school.
Right.
There's also one in North Perth. There's a couple in Fremantle area actually. So I actually started doing aerial acrobatics. The ribbon and the trapeze and that kind of stuff, and then.
That's also cool.
Yeah, it's pretty. That's probably what I mostly do in circus.
Okay.
Juggling I kind of found about 3 years later, about 2013, and it's funny because juggling. I remember being on a school camp when I was in year 10 and trying to learn how to juggle, and I just couldn't get it, and other kids could. I remember just hating it at that time. And when I started circus, I saw people juggling, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to do that. And then. Just playing around with it, having a good teacher teach me how to do just the basic pattern.
Yep.
And then, it became obsessive and I wanted to get better and do more throws and do more skills. And then it just expanded. And then when I got into social juggling, which is, if you remember at the event, Aidan and I, we were throwing the clubs to each other.
And also you were standing on top of him as well, which was awesome.
Well, he was standing on me, but
okay.
I can stand on him as well.
Yeah.
That was just a whole new level of fun. As soon as you could start passing between each other, it became less about the training and more about just having fun. I mean, juggling in itself is fun, of course. But
it's addictive, as you said as well.
Yeah, but obviously it gets to a point where once you can juggle three and you can do a couple of tricks, you really have to start putting in the effort if you want to, there might be a skill which takes a lot of learning and a lot of breaking down what you already know to be able to rebuild it up. And I think that time can really frustrate people, but social juggling kind of negates that because you can just have a bit of fun learning a passing pattern. And
you're
really
sort of struggling together if it's hard and,
exactly.
crushing it together.
Yeah.
So with that element, what does the training involve? You mentioned, can you do it is it best with a partner or are you doing a lot of it solo? Yeah,
so I think especially with the partner and the social juggling, it's important to be able to... do it yourself. If you practice, say if you've got the clubs, which you saw us juggling last week, and you do...
So they sort of, for everyone at home, look like the bowling pins type thing, yeah.
Yeah, and so, generally with that, for a basic pattern, you need to learn how to throw that with a single spin. But there are some tricks where you want a double spin, and that gives you more time, and you can do some other things.
So when you say spin, just like the one rotation, or and then double is the two? Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so you can
cool.
like a double rotation in the air.
Yep.
So if you practice those throws by yourself, then obviously it's easier to do that with somebody else. And definitely the training itself, you still need to put in the hours. When I train with someone who I really want to pass with, if they're not a very proficient juggler or they haven't practiced a lot of club passing, for example, it's very difficult to pass with them. Okay. Whereas, as an example, there's another juggler in Perth. He's a very, very good juggler. Like he's running 7 balls very, very easily down at the circus school in Fremantle.
Yep.
and we had never passed together. And then the start of this year, we started passing a little bit more. And then only maybe 3 weeks ago, we started passing 8 clubs together.
Wow.
And for me, I think that's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
But even though we hadn't passed a lot and he hadn't done a lot of passing, because his standard juggling was quite high, he was able to pick it up really quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can sort of tell who's put in the work and who
Yeah.
hasn't as well. Is that awkward if you've been, I mean, I don't know if in events or in the social stuff you were put with a partner that wasn't that great? Is that frustrating?
I guess it could be. I've been pretty lucky to be with people who've worked pretty hard and juggle quite a lot. So I have heard stories of people who generally you just make it work. And I think the other thing is, to people who don't juggle, you know, I might do what I consider a simple trick and it might blow someone's mind. And then other times you can run, you know, if as an example, I can do a simple 3-ball trick and people will go, wow, that's amazing. And then, you know, if I try and run 5 balls for someone, they go, oh, how many more can you juggle? It's like, can you not be happy with the years that it took me to get 5 balls?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
So you mentioned as well so not just juggling now. Are you just juggling now, or is it also you're still doing the trapeze stuff and the aerial?
Yeah, so still doing a huge mix of stuff in circus. I think this is probably, to terribly use the term, it's hard to juggle it all. But
nice, that was well played.
Thank you. So so I do a bit of partner acrobatics. So I'll have people stand on me or do a handstand in my hands when I'm standing up. And I did a couple of shows recently in the show for Fringe. I did a silks act. So yeah.
What do you prefer? What's your favourite? Or is that a really shitty question to ask?
It's not a shitty question to ask. Probably duo trapeze. So that's where I would go onto a trapeze that's quite high. It's about 5 meters, 6 meters in the air. I'll then hang upside down, and then somebody either gets boosted up or climbs a rope up to me, and then I hold on to them, and basically I throw them around underneath me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you? I mean, there's also, we mentioned about the training with the juggling and the spins and stuff. How do you train for something like that? You're up in the air. There's that strength component. What do you do? How the hell? Like, it's not like you go to a lat pull down at the gym or something. That'll do it.
Just lat pull downs with people.
Yeah.
No, so with something like duo trapeze, you have to have a certain amount of solo trapeze strength, and then you can transition into that. And then you kind of need a base level strength, and then you can start working on the basics. And even just holding someone upside down it's a lot of work. You know, if you're throwing around 50, 60 kilos underneath you, it's a lot of work. But a lot of it comes down to technique as well. You know, if people hold their body in the right way and you use your body in the right way, it can be pretty easy, actually.
What are some of the techniques?
Good body tension always helps. There's a thing in doubles trapeze. If I'm hanging upside down and I want to get the flyer above the bar, you need to. We have a move called a pike wrap up, where the flyer kind of folds in half, wraps their leg around my torso, and then I push them up. And you're beating. There's beating is when the person underneath. It's kind of like, imagine if someone's on a monkey bars and they're kind of throwing their leg backwards and forwards, and they're kind of going from a banana to another banana. Yeah. And that's called beating. And if you get that technique right and you're pushing just enough and they're holding their body in the right way, you can invert and it's no problem. And it's just those little things. Yeah. Most of the time it's body tension. A lot of the time it's just and timing is so important.
It's just those little 1%ers, I guess, as well. Like, you watch events like the Cirque du Soleil, and I mean, it's just like yourself, you've trained for hours and hours. There's just no margin for error, but you guys train it so that you just don't stuff up. Yeah,
basically. I mean, a lot of the time there's no margin for error. Maybe a little bit. You know, it's
to us it might seem like, oh my God, he cannot make one mistake, but you guys are like, we got this.
Well, I mean, there are some tricks that you can't afford not to. You know.
Yeah. Have you had any major injuries?
Not major, not from circus anyway. I've probably put my body through a bit too much stress at times and pulled muscles and things like that. In terms of, I have had a couple of moments where I'm basing someone, or if I'm upside down on a trapeze and if we miss something, and sometimes the flyer will come out. And generally with duo trapeze, we would never train without a mat. Yep. So you would never train without a crash mat underneath you, because the risk is just too great. Especially if you're doing any catch-release stuff where you're literally letting go in the air and then recatching again. Okay. It just becomes a bit too dangerous.
Because, I mean, you don't have the mat under you in an event, do you?
Depends. So for duo trapeze, I would.
Okay.
For silks, I did a show up in Jurien Bay a couple of weeks ago, and no, for silks there's no mats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the silks is the one where you're climbing up. Because I watched, we talked about an event at Fringe, and it was a female. She was using, just tangling herself, but climbing up along this silk material.
Yeah. I think that was a rope, if I remember correctly. Was that Fat Cab Club?
Oh, there was two I saw then, yeah. And there was one with the rope, one with the silk.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So the silk it's kind of like the fabric that hangs down and...
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, exactly, you can wrap yourself up and it's a bit stretchy and, yeah.
So speaking of Fringe, your show was a killer, obviously, and that must have been a great feeling.
Yeah, it was really nice. I wasn't expecting it at all, to be honest. I kind of have been wanting to do so the show was a science and circus show mixed. So it kind of looked at scientific, or STEM, I should say, STEM elements, presenting that through a circus medium.
Yeah. And is that because you've got your engineering background? You wanted to tie the two together?
Yeah. Like I think I describe myself as a science enthusiast, and I've been wanting to present a science circus show for a while now, and Fringe this year had a STEM grant, so you could apply for a little bit of money, and I just thought,
That's good.
Even if I get it or not, I'm just going to put it on. And, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and it was hard work, but I put it on with one other person, and somehow we won it.
So was it just you two performing?
Yeah.
Okay.
For almost an hour. It's about a 50-minute show.
Wow, that's pretty grueling.
Yeah.
And you were back-to-back each night?
No. So it was both of us every night.
Yeah, like in 4 or 5.
Oh, sorry.
Nights?
No. Oh, it was only a 4-night run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still, by that 4th night, were you just like, I need a massage?
Yeah, it was pretty intense. Actually, a good story within the show, we did a chair act, and you've seen where the chairs are stacked and you do handstands and stuff on top.
Yep.
I was doing a smallish chair stack, and with chairs, they kind of lock into each other. But I was doing a handstand on a chair stack that wasn't locked in, which, I'd done it a couple of times and it was fine. And this was 6 days before the show. I did this handstand and the chair slipped and I came down and broke my toe. So I had to perform it. Like I was limping before the show every night.
No.
And then just painkillers, get through the show, limp after the show.
You're just like timing, like
it wasn't the best timing.
Because you probably performed that 100 times, that one trick.
Yeah, I mean, probably not 100 times, but I'd done it a number of times. I thought, pretty comfortable with this.
Mm-hmm.
And where I was rehearsing the trick, it was on uneven ground and it wasn't the best conditions. And I think at the time I thought this probably isn't the best idea, but I just did it anyway. Yeah.
So you mentioned you did it with a partner. What was the planning that goes into a show for Fringe and your show?
So the applications are open around August or a little bit earlier for Fringe.
Yep.
Basically, I contacted her. She's from Perth originally, but she's living in Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, hey, do you want to create this science show with me? She's also got a bachelor in science. And then she said, yeah, I'd love to do that.
Winning combo.
Yeah, basically, right. And I know she's a bit of a science enthusiast as well, so we just had a chat up front about what elements of circus and science we like, how they meet, and we kind of wrote out all these ideas, and then at some point you just go, okay, let's mix these ideas, let's do this, and then you kind of have a show, and then it's about creating an act, and what trick can go here, what would look cool, and sometimes things come together just by playing around in the space.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to really sit down and think, okay, what am I going to do here, and how would I best convey this? Or
are you filming it in training and sort of just seeing where it all looks? And
yeah. So, and also it's not long before the show I try to get in a bunch of people just to review it and say, hey, what do you think of this? And get some feedback.
Yeah. You mentioned she's from Bristol. Another show I went to, a couple of the performers were in the UK. Is that a common thing? People just go, is it UK a popular place for circus people?
The UK is reasonably popular. I think everywhere, actually. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people in the Irish community who do circus, but yeah, there's carnies everywhere, really.
Because there was even people, international people that came over for Fringe. I just watched, they were from LA or something. So, which was a surprise. I thought it was just a lot of Australian talent, but it makes sense, get everyone on board and see everyone.
The Perth Fringe is the third biggest fringe festival in the world, and it's grown and it's really awesome, and it's got lots of international guests. Like, a few people in the circus community I see, and sometimes I'll only see them once a year because they're literally touring shows all year, and then they all come to Perth Fringe.
Oh, awesome.
It's a big event, yeah.
Is that what you sort of want to do, sort of work overseas as well?
Yeah, so I'm heading overseas in a week's time actually to do a little bit of work overseas, not a lot, also a bit of travel and network and stuff.
Yeah. Fringe would, I guess, be a good chance for that as well, meeting.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You meet some great people. And
yeah.
There's the artist bar, which I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but there's this big artist bar where all the artists can get together and basically network. And
was that in the pleasure garden?
No, that was over near the court, actually. Yeah.
That's right.
There's like a little... It's tucked in. It's got to be secret.
But that was a fun few nights at the artist bar.
Yeah, well, it runs for the whole month. It's a bit intense, to be honest.
Okay.
Can't do it every night.
No. So I'm assuming you're trying to back it up and have an even better show this coming year for Fringe.
So and part of the reason I'm going overseas is I've found a couple of other people who are interested in the show. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they're based in Ireland. And so
is that where you're going?
Yeah, actually, I didn't go there to meet them, but it just worked out to be very convenient that I had about a 3 week to 4 week gap in my travel plans, and they were free at that time as well. It was like, perfect, let's do this.
Yeah.
So, and one of the guys, I really hope he's on board, but he's got a master's in mathematics and he's an incredible juggler. So it'd be great to get him in,
Yeah. So you're trying to expand as well? It won't just be the 2 people in the show?
No, I'm hoping there'll be 4 of us this time, and I don't know if I'm a big fan of huge shows with massive casts. I think you can do amazing things with that.
Yeah.
But for where I'm at the moment and what I'd like to create, I like the idea of it being small and we can all contribute our own ideas in. And it's very much like we all create something. We're proud of that,
So you mentioned he's a good juggler and then you are as well. Most of the talent, they're multi-skilled. They're not just specialising in one thing. They can do a whole range of it.
Yeah, most circus people can do at least a couple of things. So this guy, for example, he's a very, very good bass as well. He basses 3 highs where he has somebody standing on top of him and somebody standing on top of that person. So
oh, wow.
He basses a lot of that. And I've actually performed that with him last year.
So it's called a 3 high?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
3 high. I actually just based one of those in the park on the weekend. Cool. On Sunday, outside of the Perth Glory match where I live.
So is that like you guys just, I guess for you guys to hang out, you just go random places and start doing random shit?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd put off a 3 high all the time, but yeah, this was, there was someone in town who I really wanted to do this with, and yeah, so we got 3 of us together, we put it up, and yeah, it was fantastic. Because
is there a lot of people, just going back to where we met at the event, there was a lot of random people that would just come up and they were like, yeah, I can juggle. And they hadn't juggled in 15 years. And, obviously had stopped doing it. Are there a lot of people, you've been doing it for 8 years now, 9 years. Is there a lot of people you've seen just come and go that don't continue on? Yeah,
definitely. As you said, you're absolutely right. Juggling is kind of like riding a bike in that way. Once you learn it and you just kind of retain that. And you might be a little bit sloppy, but... that muscle memory will kick in. Yeah, exactly. I've seen people who juggle, 7. They've juggled 7 balls in the past, and then they haven't juggled in 10 years, and they come back and they try and give it a go, and they don't get it, but you can see that the throws are moving in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And you know that if they practice for maybe a month, they'd get it all back. And yeah, it's one of those things that's it's amazing actually because yeah, as you said, you saw lots of people and you thought, oh, when's the last time you juggled? Oh, 20 years ago in school. What? Yeah, they did circus school. I didn't even know circus school was running that long ago. It's not something you really hear a lot about, and I feel it should be because it was just awesome fun. Yeah, it is. It's a little bit underground. I think it's becoming a little bit more commonplace. Okay. It's still not as common though, and I think also circus. I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of it. And I love it. That's why I do it. But it's not for everyone. There's some of the kids there's a youth troupe down in Fremantle, and they're incredibly talented, and some of them they don't want to pursue circus full time, and that's 100% okay. Yeah. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, I guess it's just like me and the kids I coach tennis. It's just sort of, they don't all want to go pro. I sort of have to remind myself of that sometimes. Just make it fun,
Do it again. Yeah.
But just they're out there, they're having fun. I wonder just how many people from that event that, the adults that had a go that we re-inspired to get back into juggling. That would be cool.
I hope so.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of the events you do, is it mainly focused towards adults or is it mainly kids events you're working at?
It's usually a mix. Yeah, I think the juggling ones I've done recently, they've been mixes. It's mostly kids, especially for the teaching. Mm-hmm. For roving, which is where you just go around and perform. There's not really any teaching. That's usually a mix as well. Yeah, yep. It's usually a pretty broad spectrum. Do you busk at all? Because I spoke to Aidan. He was, he does it a bit. Yeah, I've been intrigued by busking for a while, but I've never put together a busking show. Okay. Actually, that Luke, the juggler in Fremantle I was telling you about, who juggles 7 balls, he has a busking show, and he does, he'll balance a big pole on his head, and it's got a dish plate on it, and he runs. He's juggling 5 balls while he's balancing that on his head. He's incredibly talented. Yeah. So there's a lot of, I guess, it makes sense. We just see busking and we think they just rock up and do it, but there's obviously a lot of planning that goes into that as well. Yeah. I think I remember getting some advice from a circus contemporary a few years ago about writing a busking show, and he said, "Write your busking show, get out there. It's going to be shit for the first 30 times you do it, maybe more, and then it'll start to work." And almost every busker I've talked to has said that it's hard to pull crowds, the dialogue's hard, and then the more you do it, it just works. You get a feel, yeah. Exactly, yeah. Oh, awesome. So what can people expect? Are you coming up this year with any more stuff, or is it Fringe? We'll see you next. Yeah, I'd like to do more stuff this year. I'll be spending about 4 months away outside of Australia. So probably nothing in that time, unless something very amazing. That's where all the brainstorming is going to happen. Exactly, yeah. Yep. So I'd like to do some more stuff next year, but I think for the moment it'll be planning for Fringe, trying to get these people involved and trying to understand what they want out of the process, and just it's a lot of planning as well, which is fun. It's nice when it all works out. Yeah, absolutely. And when you win awards as well. Yeah. Put that on the CV. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Do people look at that? Could you, when you apply for jobs, obviously that helps. Well, I'm hoping to use that as much as I can for any kind of applications this year. I've just applied for a residency overseas, and it was like, Fringe Award winner! Use it if you can, why not? Absolutely. Well, best of luck on your travels, Ben. Thank you. Thanks for joining us today on Teach Me in 20. I've learned everything I could ever imagine about juggling and circus. And all the best with the upcoming year and the next Fringe show. Be sure everyone to check out Ben's show. Is it going to be called the same name next year? Yeah, probably. Maybe Critical Version 2.0 or something. Yep. I don't know. All right. TBC. Yeah. Look out for Critical Version, guys, at Perth Fringe show next year. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me. See you guys. All right. Oh, my God. So these are play balls. They've got a bit of a shape. That's silicone oil in there. Okay. And the idea is it helps with things like that, where you can catch. Yeah. Cool. It's still in the practice. But the idea is you can catch it quite nicely. That's cool. Yeah, so with that one you want to kind of rotate a little bit to make that flat. So even just try holding it there. Oh, yeah, that's it. So you need to think if you're going to catch there, it needs to be there. Oh. It's practice, but yeah, you can see how you can do it. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, and this is what Ben taught me as well. Juggling. So what's that one called? This one's called the factory. So that comes from columns. Okay, makes sense. 8 columns. Yep. And then it just comes across. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Teach Me in 20. Even if you learnt just one thing, you should totally subscribe and hit me with a like. And that way you can keep learning with me each week some new stuff.